Hey boys and girls, what's going on? This is Atava here, and today we are going to talk about Recoil State Management Library. So this is the by far most easiest library I have ever seen for state management, and this is beginner friendly. So yeah, so any beginners out there who want to learn state management and use it for your simple projects, Recoil is here. So before starting on Recoil, let's first see why do you need a state management library. So let me just open ScreenBrush and let me explain you. So as a developer you might have learned about props and states, right? So imagine that this is your React app, and here okay, now this is your React app, and here you have two components, okay, and here in one of the component you have one state, and in other component you have a text box. Now what you want to do is you want to show this state in this text box. How do you do that? You will send the state from this component to this component, and how do you do that in the first place? You pass in props, right? So these are the basics of React. So when you pass props, then you can just pass any value to another component so that the other component can use that value. Now this has the now after you pass in the props, now you have this value right here, okay. So this is the worst scenario where you have just two components, so you can use props. But let me show you something. Now imagine that you have this huge React app, okay, and here inside your React app, okay, let me just so inside this React app you have a lot of components like this. You have like many components. Sorry for my drawing, but okay. Now you can just do like this, like let's imagine each one has one state, and you can just transfer the state to any component. You can just pass in props like here to here and just do everything like this. It's just going to be pain in the bungolio, and it's just not good. So let me show you what you can do. Let me just remove all these arrows. You don't need to do prop. And by the way, when you do pass props in like that, that's called prop drilling, and you never want to do it. It just makes your life harder. You want to make your life easier as a developer, right? So how do you do that? You can use state management libraries to do that. So let me show you. Now let me just switch back to a rectangle. Yeah, now what you do in order to make all the states accessible to all the components, you add a state layer. And this is not what you do, this is what the state management libraries do for you. And this is called like state layer, I guess. Yeah, and what this does is keeps all the values you want to keep. So basically this has all the values. So if you have a number, you can just store it here. If you have some kind of string, you can store it here. And now what you can do is whenever you need something, like if this component wants the number, you can just get it from the number. And if this component needs to edit the number, that can be done too. So yeah, I know that I messed up the arrows, but it still means the same. Similarly with the string, now I can get the string from this component, and I can edit the string from this component. It can go anywhere around, and this is too easy because you don't need to pass in props every time. Now you have a state layer which can do things for you, and this is better. And basically there are many state management libraries. So some of them are like, one of them is Redux, another is like we have React Context API, but these both require some kind of setup, and it's sometimes very much pain to just set these up. So what do you do? Recoil is here to save you. Now Recoil is very easy to set up, and we are just going to use it in this video. So let's just start using it. I can't just tell you how easy it is until I set it up in front of you. So today what we are going to make is, let me just show you what we are going to make. I haven't made this right now, but I'm going to make it in front of you guys. So what we are going to make, we will have this window, we have this we will have a counter here. Okay, just let me just give text here, and here we have some counter, so basically 0. So, and what we have here is a button, and we will have something like increment, and when you press increment the value changes. So basically when I press increment, this changes from 0 to 1, right? So yeah, that's how it works. So these two will be different components. Let me just clear it out so that I can explain what is recoil perfectly. So these two will be completely different components, and when you press increment the value here changes. So let's do that right now. So first of all, we need to create a React app. Let me just hide screen brush now. Okay, so let's go to terminal. No, I don't want to update ZSS right now. Okay, so clear. I'll just zoom in the terminal. I'll go to documents. Now here I have all my React apps and React apps, and here I will make a new directory for this tutorial. So I'll say recoil to, no, I don't even need to make a directory. Okay, I'll just make a React app right from here. So to make a React app, we do npx create React app, and we provide the name. So I'll just provide it a recoil tutorial, and you hit enter, and once you hit enter it will make a new folder called recoil tutorial, and it will install all the React files in that, and it will make a startup template for you. Now this might take a lot of time, and it will take a lot of time for some of you, so I'm just gonna skip the video right now, and I'll be back when this is over. So once you see this happy hacking screen right here, you can see happy hacking. Yeah, we are not hacking anything actually. So this means that your React app is made. Now let's go to recoil tutorial and let's open it in Visual Studio Code. So I'm using the insiders version of Visual Studio Code because it's M1 compatible, because I'm using an M1 MacBook Pro. You might have the regular version of code, so you might just do code dot and it will just do the same thing. Now here let's just press Command J, and now I will do npm start. Now what this will do is open the React app in our browser. Let's just give it some time. Yeah, so once you see the screen, that means that you have successfully installed the React app and there's no problem. So let's go back to VS Code, and here I need to go to src folder, and let's just clean up some files. We don't need a lot of files, so let's clean app.test.js. We don't need that. We will remove logo, we will remove setup test. We don't need all of these files. Now let's go. Now if you see, you will get an error that local.svg is not there. Yeah, because we just deleted it. How do we fix that? Let's go to app.js and remove the import. And here let's just remove everything within this. I'll just rename it to lowercase app. Let's go to app.css. Let's remove absolutely everything from here. Let's go to index.css and let's add, okay, something is wrong. Let's remove all margin and padding from all the elements in our page. So how do we do that? So margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. Perfect. And if you're wondering how am I getting all these cool suggestions, that's because of the Time9 extension. You can just install it, it's so cool. So let's get back to app.js, and now what I want to do, I need to make two components like we discussed. So we just need to place two components here, so let's just make those two components. The first component will be let's just make it counter.js, and let's make a counter.css too. Now let's go back to counter.js and let's use the templates. So if you have React Redux snippets installed, then you can just do rfce and press enter and it will make the React component for you. Let's give it a class name of counter. Perfect. Now here I just go ahead and import the counter.css file. Perfect. Now after here, now I'm just gonna make a new one named textbox.js, I guess. Yeah, let's do rfce. Why is it not showing me? Okay, now here let's just add a class name of textbox, and now I'll just import textbox.css, which we haven't made but we'll make in a second. So import textbox.css. Perfect. Now let's just make that file. That's good. Now what we want to do is first let's install recoils. How do we do that? Let's stop the development server. Let's just press Ctrl C, and now what we do is we do npm install recoil. Just hit enter and let it install. Okay, something is wrong. Something is just no. Okay, there's something wrong with my React. If it doesn't work for you, let's just type force and let's wait for it to install. Yeah, now it's installed. So mostly you won't get that error, but if you do, just use force, I guess. Now here let's go to index.js and let's do our recoil magic. So how do we, we discussed that a state layer is covering our entire app. So our app is this, and now we need to cover it with the state layer. So how do we do that? So let's import that thing. So we will import recoil root from recoil, and now we can just cover this thing with recoil root, and I'll just cut this thing and paste it below app. So our app is enclosed by recoil root. Now we have a state layer which is covered by, which is enclosing our app. Okay, so now let's just start our development server again. Let's see if there is any problem now. Let's just wait for it. Perfect. We can't see anything on the screen because we haven't added anything, right? Okay, so let's go back to VS Code and let's go to text, first of all counter.js. So here we just need a counter. So what we do, so first of all we'll just make an h1 and we'll just write 0 for now, and now in app.js let's just go and render out the counter component. So when you press this, it will auto import counter and you don't need to write the import statement yourself. Now if you go back to Chrome, now you'll see 0. Perfect. Now let's just bring everything to center because this just looks bad. So let's go to app.css and let's give it a height of 100 vh. Let's give it a width of 100%, display flex, align item center, justify content center. Perfect. Now it should bring everything to center. Let's see. Perfect. Now we also need to do flex direction column. It's not center, it's column. Now what we need to do is let's go to app.js and let's render out our other component, which is text box. So here it will auto import text box, and you won't see anything in text box because we haven't put anything here. So let's just make a simple text box here. So how do we do that? We just do input type text, and actually we don't need a text box. Okay, so we are trying to increment, right? So we can just make a button. So let's just make a button here, button which says increment. So since this is a not a text box, we can just rename this to button. Yeah, if you see this, it's cool. If you don't, then yeah. So now here we will go ahead and rename textbox.css to button.css, and here in CSS import we will just do button, and we will rename these things to button. Perfect. Now let's go to app.js. Yeah, so we will rename this to button, and also this. Now this should work. Let's go to Chrome. Yeah, so now we have everything. We won't style this much. We are not going to make a like insane styling in this video. We are just going to see how recoil works. So okay, so now what we will do is we will make a new file called atoms.js. So what does atom mean in recoil? So we can just import atom first. Import atom from recoil, and now here what we can do is we can export some variables which are actually items. So I will name this as counter state. So this will contain our data about counters. So what this is actually an atom. So let's see what is this. So atom consists of two things, right? So let me tell you, atom consists of key and a default value. So what does key mean? It's just something which identifies the atom. So let's just give it a key. Now I'll just give it a key of counter, and default value to be 0. So what will happen whenever the page is refreshed, the default value will be initialized in that atom. So an atom is basically just a space. So if you remember, I just told you what a number and a string in the state layer. So basically you can just consider this to be a number in the state layer, or basically a element in the state layer, which is called as the counter state, and which has a value of 0 by default. So let's go back to counter.js. Now what we need to do is now we'll import the atom. So how do we do that? So we will do import, and that was called as counter state from, and we will import that from atoms file, sorry. Now what we will do is, just like we make states in React, the regular states, how do we make a states in React? Let me show you. So we do counter, set counter. This might look familiar because you might have experience in React. So this is something like which looks like default value 0, which is a state, okay, and here you render out counter. So let me show you how you can just easily put up recoil here. So you don't need to make use state, you just need to do use recoil state and just pass in the atom right there, not counter state. So what this will do is it will get the atom, and it will just get us the value and a function to change the value. So we have the value of the state in counter, and we render it out here. So we don't need set counter here, but we will need set counter in the increment component. So let's go to the button.js, and here we will do the same thing. We will import the atom. So import counter state from atoms, and here we will again do the same thing. So yeah, const counter set counter, and we will do use recoil state, and here we will put in the atom, so counter state. Perfect. Now what we can do is we will just go here, this on click, and after clicking it will do a function. So what will it exactly do? It will set the counter state, and it will set it to counter +1, so increment it by 1. So yeah, now if we save this, let's go back to Chrome, and this should work properly, hopefully. So let's just reload the page once. I know we don't need to do that, but I don't want to see any kind of errors right now. So let's just press increment. Yo, this works. And let me show you something. So if I just reload this page, this comes back to 0, right? So why is this coming back to 0? Let's just go back to our text editor and let's go back to atom.js. You will see that we have the default value of our atom 0. So if I change this to 5, and if I go back to Chrome and refresh the page, you will see that the default value comes with 5. So that's what matters in the default value of atom. So it initializes your data with some kind of default value. So yeah, so here it just started with 5, and I can increase this. I can even change this to any number I want, but I will just keep it on 0 right now. And then here I can just see 0 when I refresh the page. Yeah, perfect. Now I can just increment it as it is, and it's very easy. And if you're a beginner, I would suggest going for recoil first and then moving on with Redux, because what people usually do is they usually go with Redux and they don't know what state management is, and they think that state management is just a crap, and they don't want to do that because it's very hard. So yeah, and I was in the same situation too, and somewhat Redux was not the thing for me, and I went to React Context API, and that was hard too. I won't say that was extremely hard as Redux, but it was hard too. I'm not saying that you should not learn Redux and React Context API. It's just that if you're a beginner, I would highly suggest you to start with Recoil. It's very easy, and you get an idea on what state management is, and if you really need it. So that was it for this video. If you like this video, you can just hit the like button, just smash it, guys. And if you want to support me, you can just hit the subscribe button too. It costs nothing to you. Yeah, okay, anyways, I was just kidding. So yeah, if you like the video, just support me in any way. If you're even watching this video till at this point, you're just supporting me. Thanks a lot. So I'll see you guys in the next video.